Hey guys, Dan here with Battlefield Curator. Well, it's 2024 and there's a lot of myths out there about the Arisaka rifles. You would think with all the online resources like YouTube videos, websites, and forums that people would understand what myths are floating around about which rifles. Now, the Arisaka rifles have a lot of myths revolving around them that still seem to flow through the gun shops and the gun communities. So what are the top 5 myths floating around about Arisaka rifles? We'll answer that in this video, but first I'd like you to pulverize that like button and subscribe for the algorithms. It really helps out with the channel. Appreciate it. Thanks. Now this myth has been floating around for a very long time and it's really hard to kill. That's because a long time ago, World War II vets that would come back with these rifles and they didn't really, there wasn't a lot of information about these things out there. There wasn't books that you can readily access and get. So a lot of people didn't know the difference between a regular Type 99 or a Type 38 versus a training rifle versus a maybe Type 99 last ditch. With the Type 99 last ditch rifles, a lot of people look at them, they see how crude they are, they have a wooden butt plate, some of them even have a hole in the stock for a rope sling, and they say, oh, those are them last ditch rifles, they'll blow up in your face. And that's not the case. The reality is, the training rifles, if you fire ammunition through a training rifle, a Type 38 training rifle, you might blow up, or you probably will blow up. And that is because training rifles were designed specifically to fire training ammunition, like wood tip ammunition, and very low cartridge, or very low gunpowder in those as well. So a lot of people would get the Type 38 training rifles and the Type 99 last ditches confused and just say that, you know, they'll blow up in your face. Now there are different ways to tell the difference between a Type 38 rifle actual and a training rifle that looks like a Type 38. The training rifle, you're not going to see bolt lugs on the bolt. You're not going to see like lands and grooves down the bore. You have to take into consideration that there's a lot of differences between a training rifle and a Type 38. So you have to know the differences when you go out and find these things, because some people just get these training rifles in and they don't know the difference. They just say, oh, it's a rifle and it's got, you know, very bad bore. And the reality is it's not an actual rifle meant to shoot actual cartridges. So if you're out and about and you find a Type 38 or what you think is a Type 38, make sure you know the difference between a Type 38 actual rifle, a training rifle, and a Type 99 last ditch. I've fired Type 99 last ditches and they've been absolutely amazing. The second biggest myth, and probably the one that I see the most often, is, oh, the buttstock's cracked. No, the buttstock is not cracked. That is because they used a 2-piece stock. They used a little piece of wood there at the end of the buttstock in order to have an easily repairable rifle. So when these stocks get inletted, they get specifically inletted for these rifles. And when there's a crack in the stock, or there's an actual, like the toe part of the buttstock is like busted up or messed up, or just due to exposure of moisture and just, you know, just use and abuse just of hitting the ground, that toe portion of that buttstock is going to get damaged and it's going to need to get replaced because it's not serviceable. So in order to mitigate that, they would make these like 2-piece stocks so you can easily replace a piece of that wood. Not only that, this actually helps strengthen the stock itself. So some people might think there's a crack, but the reality is it's just the gap is opening up a little bit more on these rifles due to the age of the rifles and the humidity and different factors, just, you know, use and abuse as well. And this might actually benefit you if you're a buyer, because if somebody's selling one and they tell you that there's a crack in the stock, they might not know the difference between a real crack and this 2-piece stock. And so what happens is you might actually get a discount because they think the stock is cracked. And the reality is the gap is just opened up slightly. All right, myth number 3. the Japanese threw away all the dust covers and the monopods and the aircraft sights. That just sounds kind of bogus, guys. Like, this is standard issue with these rifles up until they stopped producing them because the war was just carrying on so much that their manufacturing was getting hindered by because of all the bombings in Japan. So a lot of the factories are getting bombed, and they had to speed up production. So they might make rear sights without the aircraft wings there. They started not making these rifles with monopods, and they stopped making the dust covers. But you will find some with dust covers still. And so a lot of these dust covers are gonna probably be in not the best shape. They might have a little surface rust. They might be in pretty decent shape. You might see some aftermarket ones. Biggest reason why someone might say that they threw away the dust covers is because they make a clanging noise. So what? I mean, they're running the bolt action. They don't need to be a silent bolt. It's still gonna make a lot of noise regardless of having the dust cover or not. A dust cover might come in handy, and it was standard issue with the weapon itself, so there was no reason to really get rid of it, especially if you had a strict command structure that would inspect those rifles. They would probably want to see those dust covers on there. Like this Type 38 here, this came with an original dust cover, and this one's got a actual chrysanthemum on it. And speaking of chrysanthemum, this is myth number 4. Myth number 4 is that if it's got a mum on it, that means it was taken from battle. Not necessarily. Now, a lot of the rifles that you'll find on the surplus market are probably gonna have a ground chrysanthemum, and the ones that have the chrysanthemum probably were taken from an island when the Americans were island hopping. Now, some of these rifles might have been captured from a warehouse, so they might have just been sitting in a warehouse. They might have been sitting in an armory somewhere on an island. Doesn't necessarily mean they were used in battle. Like this one here is actually in pretty good shape. So I don't think it was used in a battle, but you can never be too sure, and you never know. So the biggest thing is don't believe the story. Just, if you're gonna buy a rifle, buy the rifle. To go along with this myth, some of the sellers will actually try to say, oh, it's got a mum on it. That means it came off of a dead Japanese soldier. They're just trying to sell you a rifle with a story tied to it. All right, myth number 5. I got a Type 99 and it's been duffel cut. That means a USGI brought it back in his duffel bag. No, the Type 99 last ditches, they weren't duffel cut. That's the way they were designed. The Japanese cut back on a lot of resources. This was helping them save wood when they would make these stocks. And so like a lot of people, when you pick up a last ditch Type 99, you'll see that the top area, the top of the stock there is a little wobbly. So that's just the way it was made. It's not duffel cut. So overall, with these myths floating around out there still, the best thing to do is to do your research. And so that way you know these myths. And when somebody tells you these things, then you might be able to teach them what is a myth and what's not a myth. And because it's just these things just get thrown around out there like common knowledge, and it's really not. And it's actually kind of irritating. Well, if you know any myths, other myths floating around about Type 99s, Type 38s, any Japanese rifles, or just World War II in general, let me know in the comments section. And if you like this kind of content, be sure to pulverize that like button and subscribe again. Thank you very much, guys. And as always, be sure to learn history and curate history. Make it a great day.